Okay, let me come back over here. Hello, everybody. Everyone. Everybody. Hey, that's interesting. Hey, everyone. This is Michael Gibson. We're live. And sorry about that interruption and the technical difficulties. Uh, hey, Montez, I see you made it. Good to see you here today. You need to unmute if you could.
Yeah,
That'll help.
I just drove 135 miles, man. I'm dog tired, man.
I'm so sorry you did that. You could have just waited a couple more minutes instead of coming on the screen. I was going to keep everybody entertained for a while you catch your breath. So where did you
I'm
go
here.
135 miles to, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, from my location to Mansfield, Ohio, is 66 miles
So each way, you went back in,
back and
went
forth.
around, and came back. Okay. Mansfield, isn't that where the Shawshank Redemption, uh,
Yes, I've been there. It's the prison. It's Mansfield prison that was filmed for that movie.
right, the Shawshank Redemption, I think it
Yeah,
was called. Yeah. Morgan Freeman and
yeah.
tall guy, Tim Robbins.
It's
Yeah, that's
haunted.
right, in
Yeah,
Mansfield. Friggin-
it's a haunted prison. It's where Lil Wayne did the video for Fireman.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, it's a pretty famous prison. Old school, I'm told.
Yeah,
Well, Alcatraz and Mansfield prison are like the two prisons I know about in the United States. What
that's
was
on my bucket list.
to get over
Al-
to Alcatraz?
Alcatraz. Yeah.
Yeah, that's out in San Francisco, out in the Bay.
Yeah,
That
I've been wanting to go to the Bay for a long time. I'm planning to do it on my birthday. I want to go there. I want to watch some whales, drink a mimosa.
there you well, mimosas are good. There's some of that champagne and orange juice or something like that.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you're talking about living. So, this is just ironic. I was talking a little earlier about all you've gone through, recidivism, going back and forth to prison and that kind of thing. And then ironically, you say, I want to go to Alcatraz. It's on my bucket list. I've never, I never in a million
Well,
years say a guy who spent so much time in prison want to go visit a prison. So
it,
tell me
well,
why.
it's
Tell me why.
I'm as you know, I love history. Any history on this soil, the lower 48 and the two contiguous, the two that are touching.
Mm.
I love old architecture. When I mean old, I mean 16th, 17th century, 18th century. Um,
Really?
Alcatraz, yeah, Alcatraz it's a very old establishment. There's a lot of history, and I love ghosts. I like the supernatural.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So you're
so
intrigued by all of this. You'll have fun when you go
yeah,
to places.
I
There's a
want to
book
spend the
you
night.
need- there's a book you need to read. I could recommend it for you now, and might as well. I've been recommending this book for years. It's a book called
Yeah.
Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett.
Okay.
Pillars of the Earth is all about architecture, but it's a
Okay.
journey through, it's an exciting, adventurous journey through the
Yeah.
lives of the old feudal times of when they built the naves and the cathedrals and they built the monasteries and
Mhm.
that whole architectural, if you like architecture, you're gonna love this book. And it's an exciting ride too. I've read it in a couple different languages. I've read it. It's been out for
Yeah.
many years, but it's called Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. You'll enjoy
There's
it.
one more. There's one more old architecture. It's not even southern because that's my favorite antebellum architecture. But there's one other establishment that I love in the way of architecture, man, that really intrigues me because this lady was haunted by demons and she kept on building on to her house.
I know the house. I can't think of the name of it, but keep going. I love this story.
It was the Winchester house.
That's it. And she like
Yeah,
kept building these rooms on after
yeah,
her
to
husband.
lock the demons up. After her husband died, everybody who died from a Winchester who been around since the 1840s, anybody
Mhm.
who died hunted her and hunted that house, and she added and added and added. And I want to go to it. I want to go
Wow.
to that. And there's one more. There's the Mary Surratt. A lot of people don't know much about the Civil War and why it happened the way that it did. I'm one of the ones that do know. I wanted to be aware
Go
of
ahead and share. What happened? What happened? Tell us about it.
well,
Synopsis.
the Civil War wasn't it didn't turn out the way that it turned out because of because of racial inequality or slavery. No, I think it was about area. See, Maryland was not a slave state back in those days, and they were pushing for Maryland to be a slave state. President Lincoln illegally locked up the Maryland legislators so that they didn't vote for it to be one. And they found out that Washington, D.C. sits right in between Virginia and Maryland. And how would it look for the nation's capital to sit in Confederate territory? And
Yeah.
so
Mhm. Yeah, they did
that's
it. They had to do it. There's a lot of historical back dealings going on then. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
there were other reasons why Lincoln was killed other than just Emancipation Proclamation and freeing of the slave. Any
yeah.
other
It was
reason?
way deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we know we digest it. Well, how do you feel when you just spit out all that history and you know
I
it?
feel
You got a little nervous, but you know it. You know,
I feel good, man, because I worked. I read so many books, man. We talking thousands of pages a week. I sat in segregation for 3 years straight. I didn't know nothing but a book. You can hide nothing from me in a book because I'm
you know
gonna
what?
get you.
That's a hell of a hard lesson to sit in segregation, meaning solitary confinement or solitude, and for 3 years and do
Yeah,
nothing but read.
and
I
push-ups.
think, oh yeah, of course. Got to keep the pectoral muscles up.
Yeah.
But my question to you, in all of that solitude and all of that patiently sitting there, how did you maintain your sanity?
Well, there's a couple of things that I didn't want to be about. Um, I was 5 years in prison in the state of Wisconsin before that. I had to go through that, and I went through jailhouse cases and stuff. I did. I was one of those ones who came to prison, and I said, just because I'm in prison, don't mean I'm not about to follow no rules now. So I broke every one of them.
Mhm.
I stayed true to whoever it is that I was trying to be. Um, I got in that cell, and I didn't want to be crazy because they have what you call a butt naked house, a glass room, plexiglass. We can't have anything but milk and cheese, things that you can't hurt yourself with. I didn't want to be that way because I knew coming to prison, I had a TABE score of 10.4. That means I come to
Paint
school
us a
to the
picture.
prison,
Paint us a picture of what do you call that room? The butt naked room.
the butt naked room.
Now,
So
this is
when you
some
go into,
information that people would die to know about. So tell me all
oh
about
yeah,
butt naked room. So
okay,
you're butt naked, you're in this room, you get cheese and milk. What else
you
do they?
get cheese. That's all you're going to get. You're going to get a plethora of medication. Some people are going to be intravenously fed. Some people are going to be Thorazined out. It depends on what you did and how what your behavior is like. Most of the time, it's the people who's in segregation who decide to flood or to throw a fecal matter or urine on the correctional officers or all types of whatever stuff that they cover in the
Punishment.
window.
It's
That's
punishment to be
yeah,
in a naked room. So even
yeah,
beyond the segregation and that terror of just being totally immersed in self and nothing else but the walls and
yeah.
losing perspective there, or even gaining it in some cases. But then if you act out there, then there's a lower level you go to.
Yeah, there's even lower than that. I mean, where I've been, the places I've been to, correctional officers, people think that there's a reason why inmates act out and act the way that they do. Correctional officers come in and mistreat the inmates, and so when one that got life and don't care hauls off and punches you, they don't give you go in there. They hold the video cameras on the floor, beat you, call you niggers, um, kick you, hold you in a way that where they can further emasculate you by literally kicking you between your legs to try to, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
All
yeah,
just all
demoralizing.
different, yeah, all different kinds of stuff that they do. And then I look at the news and I look at the reports and statistics, and I'm like, yeah, y'all don't understand why you're hiring criminals, the same people that you're stopping from having jobs. You're hiring them, and they just look like you, or and they're in a family. And it's a family of correctional officers coming in and they're passing the word on, and they're spitting in food, and they're stealing, they're bringing in drugs, they're having sex, they're doing everything under anything to turn a dollar, everything. Everybody wants some money. And the
How
correct
would you
and the
see
prisons,
reform? Before you go into that lower level, how would you see
yeah,
reform? How does reform look to you?
reform is dim to me. There is no reform, and there was always will be recidivism because, in my opinion, based off of fact, and based off of experience, it's set up to be that way. Recidivism will never go down there. It's a percentage of 66.7%. That's two-thirds. That's almost all of the people who go to prison go back. And it's like that for a reason, because when you get out, they don't give you nothing. They don't try to help you do anything. They
I
tell
want
you
to get
what you
to, I want
got
to
to do.
get to that in a minute. I want to get to getting out, but I want to go to that lower level first because I understand recidivism, but I want you to put it in perspective because I think you're doing a great job at that. I love it when someone knows what they're talking about. So
Yeah,
from an experiential point of view, an
yeah,
experiential knowledge and having that history, again, I love the history. History is one of my favorite subjects too. But I'll say this to you. You're in this low place, this butt naked room because you acted out. You threw some shit on a wall, let's just say. If you did
yeah.
that and they take you down to this other place that's worse, tell me about that quickly.
Well, first you have to incriminate yourself. You have to indicate that you're going to be harmful to yourself. Okay, that whether that be hunger strike or cutting your rib, whatever, then
Okay.
give them the right to put you in that type of environment. And then when you go in there, if they further act out, and you can't act no farther out because you have a turtle suit on, which is a suit built for people who are naked in that type of situation. They'll just come in the lower level to that is they'll just come in there and they will you will be beaten, you will be emasculated and mistreated, and you won't get fed the milk and the cheese
How
sometimes,
long would
depending
this
on
go on? How long would this go on?
till they see fit for it to stop.
So you would go into, let's say, segregation for 3 years. So you were sentenced to 5 years, but 3 of those years you spent in segregation. That means you were isolated, correct?
No, 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 no. I had a fight with the correctional officer. I was
Wow.
uh, um I was almost charged criminally. I said some things to the effect of, if you charge me, I'm going to charge you because I'm a ward of the state. They didn't like that. The middle ground was for me to be transferred to Supermax underground, almost privatized prison, ran by CCA. Um, they send me there, and I do a minimum of 3 years of segregation. And I did those 3 years. I started out really rough, camera in my room. I went from there to being the only inmate with the job, and the one who had to make the transition. 2015, the United States of America was talking about how inmates were being segregated and what it was doing to the mind. And so during that time, I was the only inmate transitioned into prison from being locked down 24/7, ain't no 23 and 1 all day long, to coming out in increments and participating in different programs to help one better themselves and further themselves along. Okay. I was the movement for that. I was the very last one. Um, and it was rough. I witnessed inmates being raped by correctional officers in handcuffs. And I witnessed this. I'll stand up and attest to it because I hate the
And
system.
I'm not asking you to do that right now. It may come a time, it depends upon who sees this video.
Yeah.
But I want to share with the world your experience. And I think you're giving us a great bird's eye view of what you've gone through. But here's something for you. So you go into segregation and you start to participate more and more coming out of segregation from time to time as they saw fit for you to enter into different programs, to congregate with others, to kind of have a normal prison life, whatever that may mean. I'm not absolutely
Mhm.
certain, but it's much better than where you've been, I'm thinking, to
Yeah.
have a normal prison life. So you finally get out of segregation. Where do they send you now?
Well, usually inmates you go from supermax to max,
Okay.
and then from max, medium, medium minimum, then outside custody. Well,
Okay.
because I was in the supermax the first time I went, because before 2 years before, I ended up doing 18 months in the same
Prison.
seg
Yeah.
pattern. So
Mhm.
they send you out after the seg time. I was supposed to go max. I ended up going to a medium institution called Fox Lake. I only had 8 months left to do, and I'm coming down off of almost a 10-year sentence. We're really close to a 10-year sentence, 8.5, 8 years on 10. And
Mhm.
when I came out of SEG, I was only 33 years old. They were calling me old school. I was an athlete. All I did was play ball and work out and stuff. And I was getting referred to as old school because it was the way that my mind thought. And
Mhm.
it was a crowd. There was about 4 or 5 loyal people that followed me around, and I ended up getting hit in my face with a bat. And
Why were you hit in the face with a bat? Who did you intimidate, or who tried to intimidate you?
well, somebody tried to intimidate me. When you selling drugs in prison, man, you got to know that the 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 amount that you make goes extremely high. What you would make for $20 on the street, you're gonna make for 100 in prison. And I had some marijuana, and I was moving commissaries money, and I was moving it 2, 3 big bins at a time on a cart, as if I was working. I was utilizing my job that I had in the institution at the time to transfer money in exchange for drugs or vice versa. And it
Hmm.
didn't it didn't it didn't go out, it didn't go down the way it was supposed to go down, and I got stiff. And the guy was scared, but he was standing his ground. And as soon as I turned my head, he caught me from the side, hit me in my jaw with a metal bat. And I didn't even hit the ground, man. I was
Dazed.
all I could think about was my lick. Yeah.
You get
And
your lick
I
back.
didn't even get, yeah, I need that lick. And I ended up not getting, we didn't get caught because for one, I didn't burn my mouth. I'm not gonna ever.
Hmm.
Um, I went and laid down in my bed for 2, 3 days straight. I ate noodles. I slurped them as much as I could because I had a
Cold.
mass right here.
Hmm.
Yeah. And when it was time to go to rec the next couple of days, I jumped out that bunk, and they know I'm gonna get on that basketball court. I get out there with the biggest dudes I could find that thought they was tougher than me. There go my
Walked them out
alibi.
on the court. You walked them up
That
and
I
down.
get on that court and I make them so mad that they they get really aggressive. As soon as you get too aggressive, I'm gonna hit the floor, and then I'm gonna go to the correctional officer and say, "Hey man, I just had an accident on my basketball court."
Yeah, and just
And that
blame it.
right. Yep,
Take it.
because they're not paying attention. They weren't paying attention to any inmate during count time or any of that stuff. They're not paying attention to nobody. They're just trying to hurry them get their job done.
Now,
And
I
you
don't
have
feel
to,
sorry. I don't feel sorry for inmates. Let me just be clear. I don't feel
yeah,
sorry because they did crime, but I do
yeah,
feel sorry when the treatment is inhumane.
right,
Treatment
right,
is
right.
inhumane. Yes, I feel like there is retribution to be made, or some type of not retaliation, but correction to be adjusted. But that you said, based on your experience there, that that's not going to happen.
No,
Okay, I want to
it's
come
not
back
gonna
to your. Say again. Go ahead, please. It's not going to
it's
happen.
not gonna happen so long as the average offender or convict remains seen as a dollar bill. It is never gonna happen.
There
And
we
like I
go.
run,
So when you get out, you're stigmatized automatically when you come out
yeah.
because you are uh ex-convicted person or ex-con or ex-convict.
Well,
Uh
there's federal monies
no,
for
of
each
course.
one.
And I understand. But what do you mean federal monies? Like,
Meaning every inmate, if there's 1,500 inmates in this institution, every last one of those inmates to take care of them is seeing upwards of $30,000. So 1,500, 30,000 times, how much money you adding up every year, and how much are you spending, and how much the things costing? What's the difference? What's left over?
yeah, I understand. I understand. That's the law of economics, one of the first supply and demand. So
Yeah.
it's a privatized system of inmates that needs to fill those cots in order to generate the revenue in order to make those profits. It's a business, of course. But I think it's more than a business. I think it's modern day slavery in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just
Yeah.
for blacks, but whites, Hispanics, and
No.
everyone else who's behind bars.
When you're in prison, everybody is black. If that's the situation, and the thing about it is, there is no for those. Man, I did time for the guys who coming down off of the 30-year bids in the 70s and the 80s, and they were coming down off the early 2000s, late 90s. I had to be with them at 15 and 16. So it's not
Your
it needs a whole.
mentality.
Yes, yeah, and I'm the last of those people. I got what they gave, and I was in Chicago and Stateville. Man, are you serious? These are the worst prisons in the United States of America, and I'm there as a kid, having to represent something and be somebody and call my have an M because everybody, it ain't no different. You got the world's worst people in a fenced in area and or behind a 100-foot wall, and you think it's gonna get better. These societies worse. What did you think was gonna happen?
And
And
so
with
the worst stories are there. The worst stories in America you can find in prison, why people are there, the crimes that they've committed, but also the atrocities that have been committed upon them throughout their life, as well as when they're behind bars. So it's a vicious cycle, a
Yeah.
vicious, vicious cycle of terror and pain.
Yeah.
Uh, Prison is supposed to be a place where you are, um, there is a word for it, and I want to say it, but people laugh, rehabilitated.
I was for the laugh.
I know, I know. It's supposed to be, and we've demonized prisoners well beyond the scope of what their actual crimes are. A guy can go to prison for, knocking over a bicycle with his car and end up in some other, maybe the toilet got broken while he was there, and next thing you know, he has a felony for destroying property. Now he's 5, 10 years in prison for breaking a toilet or something like that. How is it fair that he's in the same prison with you?
It isn't, but see what it boils down to is bed space. And so if I'm a minimum, I'll come to prison because I have a domestic situation that might have just been a felony, but it makes my security real low because I've never been to prison before. If I come to prison and you are been in here 30 years and ain't never getting out, me and you shouldn't be in a cell together. I watched a dude die like that before in Green Bay in Wisconsin.
Mhm.
Um, because the guys who's not never getting out, they don't want to be in a prison with somebody every other 6 months. Their cellmates going home. But if they don't care, they'll stuff you anywhere so long as they can get you in there to get the money. They go back to that dang on dollar.
We're going to talk about that in our subsequent interviews. And I just wanted to give everybody that visceral connection with what you've gone through. And I'm saying
Yeah,
all for a reason. What you've gone through, you said I went on the court and I had to, hit the ground and make it like, my jaw was hurt from, being on the court and not necessarily being popped in the face with a bat or a metal pipe. It takes heart to do that. It takes heart to just lay up and take it, and then get out on the court, fall on it, and say, "That's it." I said, in that world, that's a stand-up guy.
mm,
Okay. It's intimidating to the guy who's there because he didn't pay child support. It's
yeah,
intimidating to that guy that you've gone through that. And they see it, and life around you respond to it. Now, you've had to do that how many thousands of times being in prison just to kind of be a
uh-uh.
stand-up guy?
I couldn't even. I don't think a number exists.
Exactly. And because there's no number, that means you were conditioned. Conditioned. Just like you want to get that layup, you got to practice it a few times before you get it right. Quite a few times
Yeah,
sometimes. Or you want to get it from the free throw line or a three-pointer a little bit further out, you have to practice it, and your whoosh has to be a real whoosh. It can't just be, especially on the court where you're playing. These guys play for real, and
yeah,
they
yeah,
may run into you with a knife or shank you or whatever they call it. You get it? That may happen, but so you had to live that life. And when you run up on somebody on the court, it's different from running up on somebody in the court 3-on-3 in New York or Chicago outside in prison. It's a whole nother different thing. It's more about respect and about holding your own and showing
yeah,
people to hold their
yeah,
own as well. That's what I'm envisioning, and you've been a great author of showing us what that looks like. Now, take that personality, take that. I got to stand my own ground. I got to get my lick in. I think you said I got to get my lick. Take that person, put yourself in the world with a woman. I think you and Bobby are going to be fine, but there's some things you have to do. What you went through in prison and what Bobby went through in prison, because she has her own experiences. Y'all
yeah,
both have to poke your chest out and keep it out for however many years you were there. You couldn't ever sit around and go, you couldn't do that. That's weakness.
Yeah.
You have to, hey, what? Okay. People say communication is everything. But sometimes the things you don't say is more powerful than the things you do say.
Yep.
And I think body language, I believe territorial understandings about who has what ground and what place in your relationship, who's going to lead this effort and who's going to follow this effort and who's going to lead it. You have an idea that it should always be you leading. I think when you do give her the opportunity to lead, you don't give her a chance to roam. I was telling Bobby for a few seconds before that you both are two bulls in a china shop.
Okay.
Whenever you go in, something get broke. Not like that, you normally hear it in this vein. People say, well, you like two bulls in a china shop. Something's gonna get broke, if you two, hanging out in there too long. Normally it's a jovial thing, but it's not with you guys. You are two literal bulls in a china shop, and you've never once given each other credit for their own individuality. You've both been so strong as individuals in your life, especially in prison, and then you come out and you're trying to cohabitate or be with someone who has their own presence, who had a rough time. Not maybe as rough as yours, because I think men's prison, it must be, just by the sheer weight of it, it must be much more difficult than a woman's prison. And from what I've seen and heard and studied over the years. But that doesn't forgive the fact that you still have to own your own in either one. And some people live that life. So now you have two individuals, two bulls in a china shop, always knowing they're going to break something. So what do we do not to break anything? We first come outside of the china shop and we allow each other to be ourselves. You have to give your wife permission to be vulnerable to you. Aha. Yes. You have to give her permission to be vulnerable to you, and she has to give you permission to be vulnerable to her. Every relationship you ever have in life, no matter what it is, school, wife, husband, children, prison guard, every relationship you ever have, Montez, is what? It's an exchange of power. All you're doing when you have a relationship, I give you a little of my power so you can make me jealous because some other guy's talking to you. You got my power. Or make me get you flowers, or make me want to make sure you have a meal. You said you can't walk in the house and not eat. So you go right in. You've given her power to make you feel like when there's no food, you're going to go in and you're going to make some. She has that little bit of power, not a lot of power, but a little bit of power to spark you into that. You give her the power to stand in your face, something that very few people do, and say, no, I'm not doing this, or we're going to argue, or whatever. You gave her that power. You gave her not the right, because that's her right to stand up for her own, but the power to make it affect you. So if you treat every relationship like an exchange of power and realize it'll never be 50-50, no matter what relationship you have on the planet, it will never be 50-50. It will be 49-51, but we're going to go this way. It'll be 70-30. It'll be 65-35, but it won't ever be 50-50. It may be 49.99999 and 50.0000001, but it'll never be 50-50. And that's where I think both of you find yourself when you're getting your licks in. You're looking for the 50-50 that does not exist. You exchange power with her. You give her the power to be the matriarch of the family and to do what traditionally women do. And she does a lot of things men do as well. She gives you the power to be the head of household, the traditional sense, just based on our conversations, that you have to do those things that go along with being the head of household. But if neither of you have the experience of living that role other than reading a lot of books, like I'm sure you do, and like trying to understand things from Leave It to Beaver on television, just giving an example of a television show. And those are your performance metrics in a relationship, then you're going to fail somewhere because there's no experience. So what you guys have to both appreciate is the experience. What you just explained about prison, nobody can deal with you. Everybody would hate your guts being in a relationship with you because they know they got to deal with that. They do. Nobody wants to be terrorized by somebody who can actually terrorize them. No one. Bobby stood up and said, I can handle this. That's the first thing you need. You need a bad, forgive me, a badass. That's what you need. But when you both come down off that tower of ivory that you're on, not of opulence or luxury, but of just sheer strength, hardness. Ivory is some tough stuff if you ever felt it. And when you come down off that ladder that you've been climbing your whole life of being tough, you're going to have to somehow or another between one another figure out one thing. She has a voice and so do you. You're going to respect her voice. She's going to respect yours. Both of you are menacing, ominous people, menacing. You know, you're the kind of guy and she's the kind of girl that you're not going to take it. You're not going to take it. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I'm not taking
it. Exactly. She knows it. You know it. And everybody around you who see y'all come together know it too. Nobody knows what to do with you guys. So because it's going to be volatile all the time, because you're two bulls in a china shop, you need to first step out of the shop and realize with whom you are married. And she has to do the same thing. This isn't marriage counseling. This is for you, Life 101, that you missed. You missed that class. You lived Hard Life 101, 102, 104, 207. You lived hard life that. But Life 101, you missed, and so did Bobby. You missed that class. Now, you've read about it, you've looked at it, but you haven't lived it. And in order to get good at communicating with one another, you have to first learn to be silent with one another. If you can learn the art of silence with your wife, then comes respect. Remember, respect and trust are both learned and earned. You have to learn to trust your wife and you have to learn to respect her. She has to learn to trust you and learn to respect you. And I know somebody has to put their foot forward first, and it should be the wife. Because a man, you weren't put here with these rules. These rules existed 1,000 years, 10,000 years before you got here about being a man. And how you fit into that sleeve of being a man is going to determine whether you go back to prison or stay out. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you make the wrong moves now, you're going to end up right back there. You're going to be a part of that 2/3. Do you see yourself going back?
No, I don't, because I had to do a revocation because I broke a rule, and they sent me back for 50 days. And those 50 days were the hardest days, man. I usually, when I go to do some time, I've been doing time since the 90s. Well, I usually just get into my mode, see who doing what, who got what, down to the pettiest, smallest thing, down to a sock. And this time I didn't know how to act or respond because it had been 7, 6, 7 years, and I never stayed out of prison that long. So I've been out 6, 7 years, and I go back in the world and change. They got tablets and all this stuff. I said, man, I'm old school. I don't know. We read books. We didn't have no tablets to look at when you was locked in that cell. So y'all mind is different. They changing y'all in here now. Y'all don't even know how to better yourself. You don't even know how to, in here. And
So
so
you went back, it was a whole different environment, something you didn't want to be a part of.
no, I felt like the older guys when we first got there. I felt like them, and that scared me because they called them Everybody that's older in prison got a name, and it's Papa this or old school that. That means you been here, you gonna be here. I
Is
don't
that a
want
sign
that.
of respect?
It's out of respect, but if you look at it, if you step into another from another perspective, man, that means you a plum fool because you've been there all your life. You ain't never getting out, and you ain't never. If you do get out, you're gonna come right back because that's all you know. I don't want to be associated with them because I was out for 6 years before I went back.
Well,
I
good.
was I was home. I filed taxes. I had jobs, good jobs. I worked for a hospital.
Hmm.
Okay, like I wasn't just out here. I aspired to be a business owner. I put the work in. I came out here and I learned something. I didn't even know what I thought I knew. So for me to be there, I went from checking a bank statement or looking at a bill to looking at my receipt for commissary, and I done blew $1,000 this month on cookies and chips. It don't. It's not the same. I won't go there. I'd rather be dead than have to be in prison again.
Okay, well, now that we've solidified that in your relationship with yourself, this is about you thinking about you, doing for you. There is nothing selfish about self-care. Nothing.
Yeah.
Taking care of self-preservation, there is nothing selfish about it. You have to be, morally correct to yourself first. You have to be vigilant and very observant about your own health and your own headspace and your own path first before you ask someone else to be on your path with you, like a wife or a girlfriend or children. Some children go one way in life. You have twins, and one of them go one way, one of the other, literally in life. So it isn't about the individual more than it is about the environment that you're in. The environment shapes you more than each other shapes you. And I think that now that you see that, because you just said, I'm not going back. That's one hell of a statement to make, Montez. It really is. I'm not going back and then not going back. That 50 days was like a wake up, like, uh-oh, I get back this time. Who knows? I may be in for 20 years and have to deal with this, you know, and you don't want to do that. So you have no more probations or none of that stuff to deal with, correct?
No, incorrect. I came home from prison with 15 years of parole to serve.
Okay, 15 years. So you still have to see a parole officer. And so for the next 7 or 8 years. Okay, good. All right. Well, are you guys friends? You and your parole officer?
No, we're not friends. You have you ever heard the term uppity?
Of course. Yes.
And when somebody says calls you uppity, they usually if you go back to the back in the day, they called you uppity because you knew things, you knew how to read, you knew how to write, you knew what was well,
Thought you were sedity and uppity.
yeah,
Exactly.
just because of
Old
what
school.
you knew.
Yeah.
Right. So the PO, that's how they look at me. Because see, if you do something and you tell me I can't do, but you do, and there's a policy that say that you can't do that, I'm going to go find it. And then I'm going to quote the whole thing. And I'm not writing it down because I remember everything that I say, everything that I commit to memory. Okay. I'm going to tell you. And then they get mad at me and they try to fight with me on paper. It doesn't work because Bobby a beast too. So now you got two dogs.
You see how you just referred to your wife like that's my partner, my beast, my dog.
Yeah.
Look, I
Yeah.
understand that diminutive statement that you just made.
Mhm.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Now, how do we translate that into good and keep it good? It's not that you don't know how to do good. You're just having a lot of practice at it. That's all. You know exactly
Well,
what not to do.
times haven't always been bad for you know what I'm saying? It's
Okay.
rough and bad. I mean, we're transitioning now back to who we used to be, but man, we got on the airplane, we went on trips, top of mountains, beaches, like we showed out, but we were in a predicament to do that. She got up, she went from selling cars to running 200 units in a whole complex and made me the boss. You see what I'm saying? I'm the one who got to maintain this property and make sure that, we was at our best. Could nobody touch us? They got to talk about we was stealing rent money. Ain't nobody steal nothing. We know how to stack and make. make and stack.
So you hustle.
And that's it. Legally.
Now, you know what? And I need to share something. You said something that touched my heart a minute ago. You said I wanted to get out and be an entrepreneur and have my own business. And
Yeah.
is your head still there?
I have an
One day
EIN
having
number.
your own business? Okay. Well,
I
having an
just don't I
EIN.
mean it's I don't have the money. I don't have the money to make the things work. Just like I have a I used to have a patent for a smart gun. I did that during the 3 years that I set it in the hole. That's what type of stuff I was doing. Okay. Um, it takes money. It
Yeah, it does.
takes money, and I never had it. Half the smart guns that you see out on the market, the only thing that separates one smart gun from another is its functions. How come
But
mine won't
any
be
any
developed?
patent is the function and
Yeah,
the output. Yeah. But the reason I asked you that was because job mentality is secure, but it's still a job mentality.
yeah,
And I think it's regimented in a way for you and Bobby to give you space, to give you that actual path that's already concretized. Because it's a job. But one of these days, because of your personality and that of Bobby's, you may want to look at entrepreneurializing your life. And we'll talk about that in later sessions, I hope. But there's something about you that you can help. There's so many things prisoners need. And I don't think
mm,
what outside prisoners do other than advocate in legal settings for prisoners. There's a lot of service that I think can be brought into that, but not based on the same business model of prisons today, because that would just be exacerbating or making worse the circumstance. I want to
mm,
talk to you more about that. I have some ideas for that.
okay,
Um, like norm therapy for prisoners
mm,
is one of the areas that I'm developing now. Also, norm therapy for police.
mm,
Police walk into circumstances sometimes and they don't know how to be a social worker, and they don't know how to arbitrate or referee.
mm,
They're just the law, and if you break it, we're going to break you.
mm.
That kind of thing. And I think that this could be something very interesting. I'll talk to you more about it in the future. I promise. We'll have more conversations. I'm fascinated with your life, not because it's been so bad, but because you survived it in such a way that you're sitting here kind of intact. We just got to
Yeah,
get you where it's, the abuse in your life. We're going to start bringing out and talking about it more uh, because this is abuse care, norm therapy. We're going to talk more about the abuses that have occurred to you in your life, but we have to tell a story first. We have to make it something that we both can identify with and see its pain and see its happiness. Like you said, we had good times. We took good trips. We hung out. We did some good stuff together. But then also there was a lot of dark times in that. We'll talk more about that as time ensues. So let's go to another conversation today. How is working?
well, when I was at the cold place, I ain't at the cold place no more because I got my uh, offer letter for case management. So I
Yeah.
hurried up and just stopped that. I cut the check, made sure some things are taken care of, and left that alone. Um, I'm still on work time. I'm still up every morning, 5:30, my clock going off. I'm
I'm the
doing,
same way. I'm the same way. Anything over
yeah,
4 hours is overkill. But go ahead.
yeah, yeah. I can't do it. The things that need to get done, I get done, and in my mind, that's my work.
Right.
Um, even
Good
if
regimen.
Bobby's
Good
here or not,
regimen.
huh?
It's a good regimen.
Yeah, and I got a cutoff time after a certain time when I'm chilling out. I'm not to be bothered. I don't want to. Of course, Bobby's not trying to hear that. She's coming every time, and then I'm gonna blow my cheeks out. Then I got to figure out how to be like, well, she might as well just go and get it over with because it's it's coming. Might as well not even try to fight it. But I'm anxious to next Tuesday I start doing the new job, and I'm anxious. I think I'll be okay.
When you're helping other people and you have the
Yeah,
experience to help them, do you have a lot
yeah.
of patience, Montez? Do you, in your estimation, do you have a lot of patience?
I will say I'm going to say 50-50, and I'm going to say it because it's like this right here. It depends on what the situation is that's going to determine the amount of patience that I'm going to have. Okay, when it comes to people, the public, or helping someone out in that way, I'll have all the patience in the world because see, I was the same person that needed this same resource. And so my experience is going to help me go that far. But when with case management, it's not just helping find the resource. You got to manage the way and the times that they take their medication. And if they're not, you got to understand why, and you got to ask why. And so, in that aspect, I feel like patience is going to be like imperative. It's going to be vital. Um, and I don't have to break my neck to get you to act right for your case.
Hmm.
I have to give a very good effort, and I have to document that effort.
Hmm.
And I've never done case management yet, and I know that because somebody else. There's a team. There's counselors. There's nurses. There's everybody under the sun. And
Hmm.
I'm knowing that if I don't document, then I have nothing to report to the team, and it's going to hinder the whole case. This person's whole case. You see what I'm saying?
No, I
And so
understand
I'm
exactly what you're saying, but I'm
I'm
asking you,
ready.
how good are you? How good are you at patience? Not just patience with them, but with yourself.
I'm
Because
not very
you,
good at it with myself.
aha, see, that's where I want to go real quick before
Yeah,
we end this call. And I think that, and it's important that you understand that you do not feel good about what you think others believe of you. You've never have, but you are getting there. You're on the path to figuring out that it really doesn't matter what other people think of you per se. Although in an an evaluation state, yes, it is important. Like your boss is looking at you to make sure you can do the job. What they think of you is important, but that's
yeah,
not what bothers you. It's never you dealt with the guards. You say, I don't got to let that, I don't care about that. You don't that kind of authority of evaluation and what they think of you, you're gonna try to do your best so they get a better opinion of you based on your job performance and based on your job knowledge. And just how do you get along with everybody on a team and are you effective? That's one kind of evaluation.
yeah.
But when people walk past you and they see you and they automatically say to you that, or think about you in your estimation, that you're not a good person, or they should know you, or you're black and you're a nigger, or you're this, or you're that, you never liked that at all. Nobody does, but it's affected you more than most. I've been called everything under the sun. People can call me a whole lot of things, but what they cannot call me, not one person, nor you, they cannot call us new. We're not new. We're a lot of other things, but we're not new. We're not the guy that fell off the truck. Never that guy. So if you know you're not that guy and your sum of experiences, the SUM of your experiences, have been an aggregate learning, not curve, but entire globe. I mean, it's 3D, your experience. Then you shouldn't have to worry about what others think of you. You should not even care what others think of you. People have said some terrible things about me in my lifetime and in public and writing and whatever, they have talked about me like a dog. Because when people don't know something, Montez, I'm going to share this point with you, and I need for you to start believing this. If you don't already know it, or if your grandmother didn't make this clear to you, she probably did, yeah, but you had a hard head. So let's see if it works again. And that
Mhm.
is, when people don't know, they make it up. When they don't know something about you, they're just going to make it up in their head. And it's going to be true for them, whether it's realistic or not, whether it has even a modicum of truth to it. It doesn't matter to them because people need to be able to catalog you somewhere, put you somewhere. When they look at you, when they talk to you, when they get to know you, what they want to do is be able to put you somewhere that's comfortable to them. So if they don't know, and if they get a hint, oh, he's been to prison, then all of a sudden you're the mass murderer with the ominous hood on, and you got a gun wherever you go. That's what they believe, and that's not true. Or they believe you're dumb because you're a prisoner, or they don't know you read day and night thousands of pages. They have no clue the content of your character, that you didn't have really character in other areas of your life, like the norm of society would have. But you did have a certain kind of bravado and character you needed to flaunt and to live in order to survive. Now you're in another place where you don't need all that. What you really need is to have that character that people see you and go, wow, this is an exemplary guy. He came in as a caseworker, or he came in as a case manager, and he began to learn and he began to increase his vocabulary, not because you don't have a vocabulary, no, but because that particular industry you're in requires a certain vocabulary. That's or a vernacular that goes with that job. And he came in and he learned and he facilitated, he was effective, he helped, he took care of people, he showed empathy and at times apathy when they didn't deserve that empathy. Not that he was punishing them, but sometimes when you're speaking or when you're dealing with people, you have to not only be empathetic but sometimes apathetic, because
Mhm.
when they think you're weak, they'll take your empathy and use it against you. They'll weaponize it. You know about that. And I want to share it. I think that's what you do as well. When your wife tells you something, you use it against her. Don't do this. When she tells you something, don't use it against her. And when you tell her something, you charge her with the mission of not doing that to you. But it has to be weighted so you don't weaponize your conversations or weaponize your relationship or the events in your past that have occurred. Weaponizing them or throwing it in somebody's face destroys them. It destroys their faith and confidence in you and their trust. Remember, trust and respect are both learned and earned. When you weaponize something they've told you in greatest of confidence, the greatest of trust, and you use it against them, then everything you've established with them, you just threw it off the table. Let's try this exercise. The next time you need to get a lick in, I mean, literally, this is how you should think, just to get past that one thing. Next time you think you need to get a lick in, just simply, and I know it sounds kind of cliche, but just say, nope, I'm not going to do it. Tell yourself, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get a lick in, even if they get 2 licks in on me, because this has to stop somewhere. And if I'm in charge of my own life and I'm responsible for me, then it should stop with me. And she should be saying the same thing. And I tell Bobby the same things. When both of you, because I think you'll make a wonderful, fantastic couple for all the things you want to achieve and enjoy in life, if you get out of each other's way. Stop having the last lick, both of you. Stop weaponizing what each other tells one another against one another. Those 2 things, start there. It's hard because that's all you've ever done, but it's doable. It's very doable. So let's stop weaponizing words and situations that's been shared with you. And of course, just stop talking. When it goes awry, just like you looking at me right now, like, I got him. Okay, I'm following him, but I don't agree with him wholly. But you're not talking. You're not trying to browbeat me into understanding your point of view. You're just listening and you're taking it in. And you're a serious cat, a serious guy, old school. So you get where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to admonish you or bitch at you or cuss you out. I'm just trying to share with you a little bit of wisdom, how the world works and how things should work. Is there anything you want to tell me about our conversation before I close this out tonight, Montez?
No, I'm just a sponge.
Good, bro. And I'm glad. But tell your wife next time it gets heated, just say, listen, let's just stop talking for a few minutes. And when we start back talking, let's listen to each other's conversation. I think that is something we need to do. Anyway, I have to end this session. But give me 1 second by telling you, if you enjoyed and got something out of today's session, please show your support by sharing this video, subscribing to our channel, liking it, and please write a comment. Thank you. And our next norm therapy session with Montez and myself will be Thursday, February 8th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please go to goarrow.org and normtherapy.com and explore our opportunities. Now, not only an opportunity to get sessions like this we're having with Montez and Bobby, but also how to join our norm therapy school. We have an online course, the Norm Therapy Intake Specialist course, and to become a norm therapist. About 6 months, and it's very comprehensive. It's not something that's easily passed. We look for very interesting people, smart people who have been through something, and we look for the opportunity to help them become norm therapists, and then, of course, help other people. We have thousands of testimonials from around the world of people we've trained, and the conversations that they have had with patients, and the sessions are somewhat spectacular. Montez, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I enjoy you. You're a good brother, and just keep your heart's always in the right place. It's just that, you overthink things sometimes, and you get too tough with people who can't really take it. So be careful with that, okay?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, brother. Listen, I look forward to seeing you here in shortly. We got 2 minutes left. What I want to also tell you is, remember, how is the we thing going?
It's almost a staple in this house.
Okay, we and us and together and all that. Okay, keep that as the frontal part of your brain. So when you do this, you can remember it's about us and not just you, or not just her, not just him. It's about all of you. Okay. It's a pleasure
Mm-hmm.
seeing you tonight. I look forward to talking to you again this week. You warmed my heart with your prison conversation. You've been through something. You need to explore that a little more. Okay.
All right. All right.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.